The child embodies our ultimate vision that every Filipino learner will realize their full potential and ultimately reach their biggest dreams, no matter how high, no matter how hard, through quality education. And as our learners aim to soar, we must continue to elevate our goals. Rising, the kite is our emblem of aspiration to deliver the brand of quality in Philippine basic education. The quadrants of the soaring kite symbolize the key reform areas in forwarding this cause, as we embark on this aggressive reform to yield upskilled teachers, well-developed curriculum, improved learning environment, and responsive multi-stakeholder cooperation. Using the colors of our flag, the logo symbolizes our unity and serves as a reminder that it takes a nation to educate a child. Together, we as a nation will have to move forward and gain more momentum so that our vision of quality basic education for all shall take flight. Sama-sama sa pagsulong ng edukalidad.
Well, hello, Mrs. Morgan. Remember how hard it was to get your students' attention? Oh, Mr. Jeski, any explosive ideas? And you, Mr. Fisher, the world keeps turning, right? Okay, we're past all that, because now we have Microsoft Educator Center. Trainings, courses, webinars, programs, badges, points, certificates. Join now and get yourself ready for the new school year. Teach your best.
Nang sumiklab ang giyera sa Marawi, maraming buhay at kabuhayan ang nawala. Maraming kabahayan at paaralan ang napinsala. Sa kabila ng matinding suliranin, naging matagumpay ang DepEd na mabigyan ang mga mag-aaral ng pagkakataong ipagpatuloy ang edukasyon at muling bumangon sa sitwasyon. Habang naghihintay sa pagkumpuni at pagsasaayos ng mga paaralan, nagkaloob ang DepEd ng mga temporary learning shelters, remedial classes, learning kits, at feeding programs para sa mga displaced learners. Nabigla ang lahat sa pag-alboruto ng Bulkang Taal. Libo-libong pamilya, kabilang ang mga guro at mag-aaral, ang nawalan ng tirahan at mga ari-arian. Mabilis ang naging tugon ng DepEd upang makapagpatuloy sa pag-aaral ang mga apektadong mag-aaral. Sinikap ng mga guro na turuan ang mga mag-aaral na pansamantalang tumuloy sa evacuation center. Tumama sa bansa ang COVID-19 pandemic, dahilan upang maantala ang normal na daloy ng pamumuhay at trabaho sa lahat ng sektor, kabilang na ang kagawaran ng edukasyon. Nang ipatupad ang Luzon lockdown, inilunsad ang DepEd Commons upang tuloy ang pagkatuto ng mga learners habang nasa bahay. Sa kabila ng mabigat na hamon sa ilalim ng new normal, patuloy na nagpunyagi ang DepEd upang maghanap at maghatid ng mga alternatibong pamamaraan upang magpatuloy ang edukasyon sa pinakaligtas at pinakaangkop na paraan. Sa ilalim ng Learning Continuity Plan, layunin ng DepEd na magpatuloy ang edukasyon nang hindi nakokompromiso ang kapakanan at kalusugan ng mga guro at mag-aaral. Isusulong ng DepEd ang tatlong pangunahing layunin: angkop na proteksyon, kaugnay ng mga health standards at safety protocols para sa ligtas na school year, patuloy na edukasyon sa pamamagitan ng blended learning, distance learning at homeschooling na angkop sa kapasidad ng bawat mag-aaral, at mabisang aksyon sa pakikipagtulungan sa lokal na pamahalaan at mga partner organizations upang maihatid ang dekalidad na edukasyon para sa lahat. Bawat DepEd Division ay bumuo rin ng sarili nilang Learning Continuity Plan upang gabayan ang mga guro, mga magulang at mga mag-aaral sa bagong pamamaraan ng pag-aaral gamit ang online, modular at TV and radio-based instructions. Gamit ang iba't ibang learning modalities, nagdaos ng dry run ang mga paaralan sa iba't ibang bahagi ng bansa, katuwang ang mga local government units at mga education partners upang maging handa sa bagong sistema ng edukasyon. Isinagawa rin ang mga pagsasanay at oryentasyon sa mga magulang upang maging epektibong katuwang sa pag-aaral ng kanilang mga anak. Sa anumang hamon o sitwasyon, handa ang DepEd. Handang kumilos, handang tumugon, at handang magserbisyo.
Ang dami ng mga pagsusubok at challenges ang naharap at napagtagumpayan ng ating Department of Education. Tuwing may pagsusubok, priority palagi natin ang ating learners at ang ating mga teachers sa tulong ng parents at saka partners at ang buong bansa. Ngayon, sa hinaharap natin itong new normal na sinasabi nila, matatag ang ating kagawaran, matatag ang DepEd, dahil pinagtibay na tayo ng panahon, kayang-kaya natin ito sa tulong ninyo.
G'day everyone, I'm Mark. As a teacher and a former principal, I know that professional learning often comes at the end of a very long day. But there are exciting, less structured ways to be in the driver's seat of your own lifelong learning. A great place to start is by engaging with our Microsoft Innovative Educator, or MIE, community. This global community is big, in fact it's enormous. Our MIEs love connecting. Monthly tweet meets are global gatherings of inspiring educators around big topics, and their Facebook group acts as a persistent home for discussions and shared activities. Another way teachers are learning within communities is through Microsoft Teams. Now, greater teacher collaboration improves teaching across schools, and Teams is the ultimate platform for a professional learning community. It's open-walled and socially embedded, so you can incorporate your OneNote Staff Notebook PLC and have access to all the goodness of video chat, phone, and collaboration tools. With Immersive Reader built in, it's inclusive and accessible on any device. Your learning community is just a click away. Last tip, our Microsoft Education Centre offers great ways to gain new skills with courses tailored uniquely to your needs. Make it a collaborative experience by picking a MEC course to do together with your peers. And as a bonus, you can practice collaborative learning by exploring a research paper, like the Class of 2030, and treat it just like a book club with your colleagues face-to-face or in Teams. The link to that research, it's in the description. Remember, learning is socially embedded. It's best done together for students and for teachers. Happy learning.
2020 brought new beginnings for the Department of Education. Ready to pivot towards attaining quality education, DepEd was hopeful of the challenges ahead of it. But as DepEd continued to work on its commitment, the world suddenly faced a steeper dilemma. Around the globe, countries like the Philippines had to shift their priorities to respond to a public health crisis brought by COVID-19. Schools had to be closed, activities had to be halted, graduation ceremonies had to be canceled, as people were urged to stay at home. A new normal dawned upon us. As soon as DepEd realized the impact of these disruptions in education, it began to proactively craft its learning continuity plan last April to ensure that learning opportunities will still be available. Consulting with partners and advisors through the Education Forum, as well as legislators, teachers, parents, learners, and the general public, DepEd made sure its LCP encompasses the concerns of the whole education sector in responding to the crisis. Its topmost priority being the protection of the health, safety, and well-being of learners, teachers, and personnel. To make informed decisions, DepEd first analyzed relevant data and epidemiological picture for the incoming school year. DepEd also issued guidelines on its required health standards to be adopted in all public and private schools and DepEd offices following DOH and IATF protocols. It covers 4 COVID-19 mitigation objectives, namely, to increase physical and mental resilience, reduce transmission, reduce contact, and reduce duration of infection. The LCP also outlined how learning continuity will be ensured. It streamlines the K-12 curriculum into the most essential learning competencies and allows the use of distance learning, homeschooling, and blended learning modalities. Since conducting face-to-face classes will be a risk in most areas, DepEd has anchored its delivery of education to modular, online, TV and radio, or a combination of all. Guided by teachers, modular learning will allow learners to use self-learning modules in a format applicable to learners' capacity. In online distance learning, teachers will facilitate and engage learners' participation through the internet, whether synchronous or asynchronous. TV and radio-based instructions, on the other hand, are converted lessons fit for the broadcast medium. The LCP assures that all our learners, including our SPED, ALS, Madrasa students, can still access education even within the confines of their homes, and ensures that their household capacity will not hinder their right to education. To make this possible, our joint Brigada Eskwela and Oplan Balik Eskwela is assisting the preparations for the rollout of the LCP. On May 8, the LCP was approved by the IATF. The President also gave it his full support and expressed his commitment to meeting the financial demands of its execution. The implementation of the LCP will not be easy. It is not a perfect plan, and complications can be expected along the way. But extraordinary times call for extraordinary and proactive measures, and the Department of Education is ready to address the challenges along the way with the help of our national and local government, partners, parents, and learners. As one nation, learning opportunities shall be available in this brave new world for our Filipino children.
When you need the focus to be on you and not whatever that guy's doing, open Teams.
subukan mo! Tutal nawasak na naman namin ang lahat ng ari-arian nyo!
Sa totoong buhay, totoo ang pinsala ng giyera. Mula noon hanggang ngayon. Para limitahan ang kalupitan ng giyera, nagkaisa ang mga bansa 70 taon na ang nakalipas upang itaguyod ang Geneva Conventions. Ang Geneva Conventions ay kinikilala ng buong mundo bilang bahagi ng international humanitarian law na nagtatakda ng mga patakaran ng giyera o the rules of war. Ayon dito, huwag gawing target ang mga sibilyan at kanilang mga ari-arian. Tratuhin sa makataong paraan ang mga nabilanggo at protektahan ng mga doktor, nurse at mga ospital para paglingkuran ang mga sugatan at may sakit saan man panig sila nagmula. Alamin ang Geneva Conventions. Bisitahin ang www.therulesofwar.org.
Hi guys, so I just came from a meeting and I was just told that I would be leading this fundraising concert for International Students Day. And I have to present the plan to the school board next week. Okay, I'm going to need some help. Let me create a team space and invite my dream team. Sia, she knows all about the budgeting and stuff. Ivan, he knows all the kids from the performing arts group. Aisha, she worked on getting sponsorship last year. And Sam, because he's so cute. Let me lay out all tasks in Planner and kick things off. So, I'm almost done with my event concept and inspiration board. I just need Ivan to do some final tweaks and plug in the repertoire. Budget from Sia? Check. Sponsorship plan? Check. Done! Whew! When you start using Microsoft Teams, teamwork really does become easier. So now I'm heading over to present the plan to the school board. Wish me luck!
De Luna,
Present!
Herrera,
Present!
Valera.
Present!
Handa ba tayo sa school year 2020?
Present!
Ngayong taon, ang edukasyon tuloy pa rin. Sa tulong ng DepEd, mga guro at mga magulang, ang handang isip, handa bukas. Tuloy-tuloy ang pag-aaral. May mga modules para sa iba't ibang antas. Sa government TV, maging sa radyo. Mahalagang ligtas ang ating mga estudyante at guro. Kaya kahit nasa bahay, tuloy ang edukasyon. Kung tulong-tulong, may paraan, may aralan.
Handang isip, handa bukas.
Bisitahin ang DepEd Philippines sa Facebook at ang deped.gov.ph.
If you spend more time tracking down files than actually working on them, open Teams.
The COVID-19 pandemic has brought unprecedented changes to our usual ways of living. But the Department of Education remains unfazed by these challenges to fulfill the mission of Sulong Edukalidad, the rallying call for national effort to deliver quality basic education to all Filipinos, which involve aggressive reforms in the 4 key areas: the K-12 curriculum review and update, improving the learning environment, teachers upskilling and reskilling, and engagement of stakeholders for support and collaboration to move forward together as we prepare the education system for the future. The call for Sulong Edukalidad will continue and we have built the framework of the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan, or the BELCP, to put the needs of the learners at top priority. DepEd's BELCP is the major response and commitment to protect the health, safety, and well-being of learners, teachers, and personnel. The plan aims to provide opportunities to continue education even in these trying times with a BELCP in place, supported by an unprecedented number of diverse stakeholders from the academe, media, industry groups, NGOs, business and private individuals. Sulong Edukalidad will be able to sustain the aims in its reform for quality basic education. In our journey towards quality education, we have established the 4 pillars of aggressive reforms from the start, and we have been continuing to progress in these pillars. In improving the learning environment, we took action in the construction and rehabilitation of school buildings, ensured the availability of learning materials and equipment, and prioritized our last mile schools. The challenges of the pandemic also brought to light the urgent need to upgrade our ICT infrastructure to service the needs of education. In terms of the teachers' upskilling and reskilling, we were able to establish more innovative professional standards for teachers and school heads. We have aligned the professional development of teachers with their career progression to track their development as part of the National Educators Academy of the Philippines transformation. With the launch of the Education Futures program, where we will be focusing on innovative actions and solutions to improve the state of our education, we are now more than ready to start a new journey and continue our fight for quality education for all Filipino learners. Finally, we've given high importance to the engagement of stakeholders for support and collaboration. In support of this, we have convened the Philippine Forum for Accessible Quality Basic Education, or the Education Forum, which will leverage other partnerships for education quality and strengthen partnership with the Philippine Normal University as the country's national center for teacher education. The department has also been developing a professional development program for teachers and school leaders in order to equip them with the skills, materials, and data that will allow them to help their students prepare for PISA 2022. This intervention consists of the following components: online training for teachers and school leaders, development of learning materials and practice tests for students, deepening the analysis of the PISA 2018 results, and supporting school-level action research. Now that the year is about to end, our commitment to Sulong Edukalidad will continue and will be far from being gone. With a lot at stake, considering our new knowledge and experience from this year's challenges, we are equipped to face a new future. As we head on to the future where we will face many challenges and uncertainties, the department will always be the guardian of every Filipino learner's right to education.
Sino ba ang hindi naapektuhan? Sino ba ang hindi nag-alala? Sino ba ang hindi nalito? Lahat tayo ay naapektuhan. Lahat tayo ay nag-aalala. Lahat tayo ay nalito. Dahil binago ng pandemyang dulot ng COVID-19 ang paraan ng pamumuhay ng lahat ng mga Pilipino saan mang sektor ka nabibilang. Tumigil ang panandalian ang ating mga nakagawian. Tumigil ang lahat ng uri ng transaksyon. Tumigil ang lahat ng operasyon ng mga paaralan. Nakalilito. Nakakaba. Paano na ang kinabukasan ng mga kabataan? Paano na tayo sa hinaharap? Opisyal na nilulunsad ng Kagawaran ng Edukasyon sa pangunguna ng Office of the Undersecretary for Curriculum and Instruction ang DepEd Teaches. Ito ay isang online na programa na gagabay sa mga guro, tagapangasiwa, magulang at mag-aaral hinggil sa mga pagbabago sa batayang edukasyon ngayong new normal. Ang DepEd Teaches ay angkla sa sulong edukalidad na nakatuon sa 4 na pangunahing pangangailangan ng mapunyaging reforma tungo sa makalidad na pagtuturo at pagkatuto. Una, pagre-review at pagsasapanahon ng kurikulum ng K-12. Ikalawa, pagpapaunlad ng kapaligirang pampagkatuto. Ikatlo, paglinang ng mga bagong kasanayan sa mga guro. At ang ikaapat, ang pakikipag-ugnay sa mga stakeholder para sa suporta at kolaborasyon. Sa pamamagitan ng virtual learning platform, ang DepEd Teaches ang magsisilbing bukas na komunidad ng pagsasanay na titipon sa mga guro, tagapamunong pang-edukasyon at sa sinumang may pagnanais sa pagtataguyod ng kalidad na edukasyon sa bansa at sa pagtagumpay ng bawat Pilipinong mag-aaral. Ang mga opisyal, education specialist, learning content expert at outstanding teacher ng DepEd ang magiging tagapanayam na magbabahagi ng kanilang kaalaman at kasanayan sa kurikulum, pagtuturo at pagkatuto, pagtataya at lahat ng kaugnay na mahalaga sa proseso ng pagtuturo at pagkatuto sa new normal. Bilang mga frontliner ng classroom, inaasahang magiging aktibo ang mga guro sa programang ito. Ang mga tema at paksa ay angkop sa kanilang pangangailangan at konteksto sa pamamagitan ng accessible na platform, ang social media. Sumali na sa OUCI family sa DepEd Teaches kung sama-sama mapahuhusay pa ang mga guro, kung sama-sama higit na malilinang natin ang mga mag-aaral.
Pleasant afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another live episode of DepEd Teaches. Shout out to all our enthusiastically appreciative audience. You know, since the launching, we've felt your generous support, and with that, thank you so much. Hello, Sir July. Good afternoon. How's the feedback coming from the audience so far?
Good afternoon to all, and good afternoon, Ma'am Ana. Well, I would like to share a good news that we have hit a record high. We had more than 316,000 viewers on our Facebook page. Today, we have around 77,000 registered participants and still counting. And we hope our participants or our audience will still stay tuned. And please don't forget to like and share the DepEd Teaches live streaming in our official Facebook page, the DepEd Philippines. Miss Ana, what are the perks of our audience when they participate in this DepEd Teaches?
You know, Sir July, that's a good question. First and foremost, DepEd Teaches is a free online learning community that offers relevant, timely, and useful information about the programs and policies of the department. It also aims to upskill and reskill teachers to equip them and help them improve their craft. And DepEd Teaches envisions a network of educators, leaders, and our partners to help one another facilitate knowledge sharing. And on top of that, our teachers have the opportunities to listen to our high caliber talents in the department, including officials, leaders, and even outstanding teachers. Isn't it amazing, Sir July?
That's wonderful indeed, Miss Ana. And I'm certain that our audience will never regret investing their time for this short yet meaningful discussion. For today, we are excited to listen from another leader who has been working round the clock, especially during this pandemic. Our speaker, the bureau that plays a vital role in designing and planning the different learning delivery modalities, and of course, in collaboration with other DepEd offices.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, Welcome to the second episode of DepEd Teaches, entitled Overcoming Challenges in Learning Delivery Modalities. Our speaker today, Director Leila P. Areola, is a graduate of Doctor of Philosophy in Educational Management in St. Paul University. She is a recipient of the Most Outstanding School Principal in the Philippines in 1997, and she also received the same recognition in 1999 and in 2001. In 2015, she was an OIC Schools Division Superintendent in DepEd Division of Cagayan before joining the central office in 2018.
Director Areola has been also a resource speaker, a graduate school instructor, national trainer, writer, and proponent of various trainings, conferences, and seminars. A motivational leader who embodies virtues and excellence and passion for service. Let us all give a virtual round of applause to the Director of Bureau of Learning Delivery. Please welcome Director Leila P. Areola.
Flexibility and adaptability, agility and responsiveness, collaboration and resilience are crucial for the next generation to navigate through the present and any future. The Department of Education takes COVID-19 pandemic as a transformative opportunity to transition to a national education system capable of responding not only to the diversity of community contexts and learners, but also to the threat of future magnitude, such as this. This health crisis hits the most vulnerable hardest, the education system. It has made us realize of the many inadequacies and inequities, from access to learning resources, devices, and equipment, to misalignment between existing resources and the requirements of the new normal. But the Department of Education is so fortunate to have Secretary Leonor Magtolis Brones, who truly cares for the education of our school children, as well as DepEd officials and stakeholders who rally behind her call for education must continue. Because conventional schooling was interrupted, massive efforts were made in so short a time to respond to the unprecedented challenges. It was, and it is indeed difficult, but certainly a possible fit. Great day to all of you, my dear fellow teachers, and to all of you, our dear viewers. It's always a joy to be with you, and thank you so much for supporting DepEd Teaches. We shall talk about the equitable opportunities of learners, no matter how urbanized or geographically remote the learning communities are. The challenges the Department of Education has hurdled in the implementation of learning delivery modalities and opportunities that opened up for the Department of Education because of distance learning delivery modalities and mechanisms to ensure learning continuity and quality of education in distance learning. Prior to the opening of classes, the planning service has included in the enrollment mechanism the survey on preferred learning delivery modalities, resources, and profile of learners in using learner enrollment survey form. This is to ensure that all learners, regardless of access to gadgets or internet connection, shall enjoy the same quality of education in the new normal. The screen shows that the total number of enrollees from all sectors last year was more than 27 million. It also includes the learners under the alternative learning system, which is 2.66% of the grand total. As of November 11 this year, we have more than 25 million enrollees, which is just 90.21% compared to last year's enrollment. This number is an indication of the interest of all our learners to continue with their education, even through distance learning and despite this health crisis. But while we are happy to have this huge number of enrollees, efforts have to be made to win back those who have chosen not to enroll this year. Here is the breakdown of learners enrolled in various learning delivery modalities. It is noted that the greatest number of our learners preferred modular distance learning. And with the number of the modular distance learning delivery modality has become the main modality for this school year, it is the most preferred learning delivery modality of parents for their children and the learners themselves. Our latest figures show that there are more than 18 million and 400,000 learners who are into printed and digital modular learning respectively, out of the more than 21 million registered in the LIS. That's about 89% of the total of enrollment this year. More than 25 million learners are given the chance to continue learning despite the challenges brought about by COVID-19 pandemic. Thanks to the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan, which is being implemented by virtue of DepEd Order number 12, series of 2020. And through this issuance, a pool of learning delivery modalities has been institutionalized, and the schools have been transitioned to what we now call new normal in basic education. In support to the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan, the Bureau of Learning Delivery also developed learning continuity plans for kindergarten, for multigrade, for special education, for madrasa education, and for special interest programs. Basic education learning continuity plan related activities have also been carried out, and policies supporting the implementation have been drafted. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed the learning delivery landscape from face-to-face to distance learning. The transition did not really come without challenges. There were a number of birth pains which left us no choice but to work exceedingly beyond our official time, even on a work from home scheme. I understand field offices, the teaching and non-teaching personnel of schools also have been working so hard to mitigate the challenges. But more importantly, we feel for our learners whose school life has suddenly halted and became confined within the four walls of their homes. But they're just so lucky because they have caring teachers and learning facilitators who would always be ready to provide them assistance to facilitate their learning. The nimble process of transition to distance learning has led to the swift development of self-learning modules, which now serve as the primary learning resource for our learners. Of course, we take pride in the modules being a strong manifestation of accessibility, equitability, and inclusivity in education. The SLMs bridge the gap in equity because for those learners who do not have internet connection or have poor internet connection and TV signals, it's the printed modules that they rely on. As we know, the self-learning modules are the foundation for conversion into various content and accessible formats to respond to the diverse needs of learners, including our learners with disabilities. Video lessons and ESLMs are embedded with audio and signed language, and also to make them appropriate for DepEd Commons and other DepEd recognized learning management systems for TV and radio-based instruction, and for digital copies, which are distributed to our learners on CD, DVD, or digital copies, or what we call the flash drive. It is reiterated, and I hope that I really have to be emphatic on this, it is reiterated that where learners have access to other available platforms and resources, the blended distance learning is highly suggested, not only to maximize multiple resources like video lessons described by no less than Senator Win Gatchalian to be world-class and provide the learners with diverse learning opportunities and experiences, but more importantly, to transform our schools to green schools. So, in conformity to the adoption of the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan, the CI strand to the Bureau released the OUCI Memorandum on the suggested strategies on implementing distance learning delivery modalities for school year 2020-2021, where we provided a menu of modalities and their combinations, which we operationally termed as blended distance learning. During the first quarter, more than 87% of our learners got into printed modular learning, and about 2% got into digital modular learning. In the succeeding quarters, schools are encouraged to explore the various combinations to utilize to the maximum other available learning resources and platforms. On screen are the combinations of the different subcategories of distance learning. And so, the multiple learning delivery modalities are delivered in various educational technologies and platforms, responding to the diverse needs and context of our learners, families, and that of communities. We have the DepEd Commons, we have the DepEd LR portal, we have the DepEd Learning Management System, Google Hangouts, Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams. We also have local wide area network, and we take pride of our DepEd TV, DepEd TV YouTube, DepEd TV Facebook, and other social media platforms. Various training programs to prepare our teachers and even our instructional supervisors were conducted not just by the central office and field offices, but also by external stakeholders. With the menu of learning delivery modalities and the support accorded to learners and teachers, we find no reason for a single child to be left behind. On screen are some online links that we are wanting our teachers to be sharing so that learners can access DepEd TV lessons. Nonetheless, balance should be observed so as not to exceed screen time guidelines as indicated in our OUCI Memorandum number 162, I mean. Access to DepEd Commons and DepEd TV Facebook is free. Mobile phones with or without data load may be used to access these online platforms without incurring data charges. And that's actually a good news for our teachers and that of our learners. The implementation of these distance learning delivery modalities did not come without challenges. That is the price for fearlessly venturing into something novel but necessary for our learners. We're just grateful that the challenges are not really insurmountable. And I take this opportunity to say thank you and congratulate all our schools through their respective regional offices and SDOs for being able to respond to the issues and concerns along the implementation of distance learning, as reported yesterday during the second National Consultative Forum for Curriculum and Instruction attended by regional directors, schools division superintendents, and CLMD chiefs. And as we say, thank you to our external stakeholders also, because without them, certainly, we cannot do everything. And we say thank you to our external stakeholders for unselfishly offering their treaties for our learners and to our schools, their time and talent to assist our learners and teachers, and their treasure for generously helping in the production and procurement of learning resources. Schools have been challenged with the production and distribution of self-learning modules and other supplementary learning materials, given that the transition to distance learning was abrupt and nobody was actually really prepared for it. Although we have been developing modules for flexible learning options like ADM and alternative learning system modules, the implementation was on a limited scale. Teachers were trained for physical classes. We understand that the novelty of distance learning, particularly on online distance learning delivery modality, must have brought about some apprehensions to our teachers, especially for those who are into technology. We also get reports that teachers have handled workload which are no longer part of their job description. For example, the printing and distribution of self-learning modules. Some regions have reported that these tasks have affected the time for instructional preparations for our teachers. There are classes which can also be very challenging to handle in distance learning, like TVL for senior high school, which requires workshop equipment and the laboratory for practical training and application of learning. And students do not have these materials and equipment at home, making learning largely theoretical. And we also have received reports that students might not actually be able to fully attain the learning competency, given that some teacher-made assessments are not aligned with the targeted most essential learning competencies or instructional strategies. Indeed, if the assessments are off tangent to the learning objectives, learners cannot be expected to meet or even understand the required knowledge and skills that will contribute to the attainment or the content or learning standards. There are no precedents, no ring binders, no blueprints to help school leaders through instructional supervision in this time of pandemic. Therefore, school leaders cannot emulate the instructional leadership practices or supervision they witnessed and enjoyed in a period of stability. We understand that education leaders want to fix things fast and lead their teachers, but familiar answers might not work and might not even be counterproductive. And the mechanism will not be useful if teachers do not receive honest feedback from the students, from their parents about the learning process of their child. When parents sugarcoat the struggles and learning difficulties of their children, teachers or schools in general will not be able to address them appropriately in a timely manner. Really, this makes our teachers the unsung heroes amid this pandemic. The established routine on the distribution and retrieval of modules poses greater risk to our teachers in contracting the virus. However, we are glad that the field offices and the schools actually came up with safe and innovative ways to distribute and retrieve modules. Because as we in the Department of Education have repeatedly emphasized that it is the safety and the security of our learners and our teachers that we value most. The errors in the self-learning modules and even in the locally developed materials have been a bigger challenge, especially for the development team and yes, for the entire Department of Education family. Despite the established standards and our diligent efforts in its development and also the quality assurance process, some modules still came out with errors. As you know, these were inadvertently overlooked because we were so crunched in time and given the bulk of workload that the writers and reviewers had to attend to, that really made it quite challenging to produce thousands of modules error-free. However, we accept the responsibility. This will always be a lesson for us. The changing level of community quarantine in some localities have consistently brought an erratic schedule in the distribution and retrieval of the modules. This affected the established routine and, of course, the timeline of our teachers and our school officials. Some households, not only in far-flung areas, but also those in the city, are affected by slow internet connectivity. This, of course, disrupts learning. Parents have complained of missed classes, and this requires our teachers to create contingency plans for learners who inadvertently miss their classes due to unreliable internet connection. And the next one is really a challenge to some of our communities, but we are glad that a greater number of regions and divisions opted to partner with local TV and radio network so that they can still deliver learning. They even developed their own TV lessons and radio episodes which are contextualized, which add actually more meaning to our students' learning. And due to the varying learning interests, styles, comprehension abilities, some learners find it challenging to complete the formative assessment given the weekly home learning tasks. So here, we will understand that the learning environment says a lot when it comes to productivity of learners, not to mention their feeling of uncertainty and perhaps helplessness in the absence of their teachers. It's really different when we do face-to-face learning. And teachers are challenged on how they're going to strike a balance between academic rigor and social and emotional well-being of learners. Teachers are torn between covering the most essential learning competencies and allowing the students to take a breather from home learning. There can be several reasons why some parents find it difficult to take the role of learning facilitators when no one is left to guide and assist the learners at home, particularly those in K-Stage 1, kindergarten to grade 3, as well as our learners with disabilities and those who cannot really manage their own learning. Learners might not be able to fully understand the lesson and get consistently low scores in the formative and as well as in the summative assessment. The fact that we are on distance learning, it is crucial that a more knowledgeable other should be present to support the child's learning. The parents' or guardians' capacity to follow the routine of module distribution and retrieval seems challenging to many, especially because there's a threat to health safety whenever they go out. Good thing, a greater number of our local government units, community leaders, and teachers took the initiative to go house to house just so they ensure that modules reach every learner. And for that, we say thank you very much to all of you for helping our teachers in our schools. we understand that it is really tiresome to teach young learners, but the idea of having the parents do the learning tasks themselves defeat the purpose of distance learning. So let's just provide them assistance, but not necessarily doing things for them. Admittedly, there are a lot of challenges that beset us all, but the department has issued policies and guidelines in support of the adoption of the Basic Education Continuity Plan, and in order to address the challenges and inconveniences brought about by the implementation of distance learning delivery modalities. You will notice that the great majority, if not all the challenges that I have just presented, are actually being addressed by these policies through proper orientation and coordination with the field offices. We're just so hopeful that these policies or policy interventions really translate to actions, and it will reach even the farthest teacher and learner. The curriculum and instruction strand of the central office provides the suggested strategies in implementing and managing the distance learning delivery modalities. This issuance covers descriptions and considerations for each distance learning delivery modality, the map of learning resources for each modality, and the proposed actions to address potential challenges in implementing the modalities. The issuance focuses on maximizing modalities, platforms, and other available learning resources and strategies, such as the recommended screen time and the 2020 rule for online distance learning, for TV, radio-based instruction, and blended distance learning delivery modalities to make such modalities more child-friendly. And I hope that you have contextualized this policy. The Alternative Delivery Mode Learning Resource Standards Manual was also developed that highlights not only the standardization of the technical specification of learning resources and the alternative delivery mode modules, but most importantly highlighted the inclusion of the social content guidelines that will ensure that our materials are context appropriate and free from potential bias towards personhood, gender and gender role, religion, indigenous peoples, and practices, among others. And we have also issued this memorandum, particularly guidelines allowing the flexibility on the administration of early childhood development assessment checklist, as well as guidance to parents, guardians, and responsible adults in the community in the conduct of assessment at home. And as teachers and DepEd personnel tackle the additional tasks, challenges, and the new expectations in distance learning, we recognize the need for additional human resource at the school level. And that is why the department issued DepEd Order number 32, series of 2020, or the guidelines on the engagement of services of learning support aids to reinforce the implementation of the basic education learning continuity plan in time of this COVID-19 pandemic. This policy is issued to provide for options and guidelines on the engagement of services of learning support aids in situations where learners cannot manage independent learning, including those children with disabilities and special needs, learners who do not have a household member or any responsible adult available to provide instruction support and facilitate the distance learning delivery modalities, and households with parents and or guardians with full-time jobs who may not be able to guide their children learning at home. We're so grateful that we have a number of external stakeholders who find their way out to help our learners as volunteer learning facilitators and as mentors also to our parents. And with that, we say thank you very much. And another policy that was released is DepEd Order number 31, series of 2020, or in the interim policy guidelines for assessment and grading in light of the basic education learning continuity plan that made assessment and grading responsive to all kinds of learning environment and context. The suspension of the quarterly assessment has made the system focused on authentic measures in grading, such as written works and performance tasks, and the inclusion of flexibilities that shall help teachers and learners cope with time, resources, and that of learning space. And aside from ensuring that learners are fairly assessed and graded, the policy also emphasizes that learning standards shall be attained with the provision of reasonable leniency and considerations for possible difficulties met by our learners. This memorandum, entitled Suggested Measures to Foster Academic Ease During the COVID-19 Pandemic, recognizes actually the value of flexibility in the teaching learning process. As we know, several of the challenges that came out with the distance learning delivery modalities were results of alleged excessive workload for both our teachers and that of our learners. So this memorandum was issued to recalibrate the strategy of assigning teaching responsibilities and learning activities. The academic ease helps reduce actually stress and anxiety and put premium on the well-being of teachers and that of our learners. It highlights integrated performance tasks and providing necessary social and psychological support to learners, to our parents, and that of our teachers. And you must remember this orientation that we have conducted to further engage parents and teachers in the facilitation of distance learning. The Bureau of Learning Delivery issued handbooks for parents and learning facilitators that highlight their roles and responsibilities, as well as strategies that can help them become more effective and confident in facilitating learning in the new normal. And we're just hoping that every teacher and even parents were given copies of this handbook. The Department of Education has anticipated the difficulties of parents and even our learning facilitators and other homeschool partners may encounter in the facilitation of learning. Hence, the launching of various series of seminars and or webinars on psychosocial support to assist them in embracing their critical role they play in the education of their school children. There were also mental health and psychosocial support provided to teachers and even to our school officials. And finally, the Bureau, through our committed and indefatigable specialists and staff, with my co-pilots, Director 3, Lito Palomar, and Chief Rosalina Villanesa, and Chief Jose Tuginayo, has been carrying out varied basic education, learning continuity plan related activities, from the development and harvesting of learning materials to conversion into different content and accessible format, from kindergarten to senior high school, finalization of lesson plans and individualized education plan for graded learners in self-contained and mainstream classes, development of training kits in ICT integration for our multi-grade schools, development of self-directed and differentiated learning activity sheets, and we worked with USP's current this, development of self-directed supplementary learning materials for core learning areas and applied subjects. And the Bureau has been conducting various training on distance learning related training programs through the National Educators Academy of the Philippines and in collaboration with external stakeholders or external partners like the ARC, the USAID, UNICEF, Save the Children, Good Neighbors, International Philippines, and others in collaboration with the University of the Philippines, Diliman, Los Baños. In fact, teacher broadcasters and script writers underwent training on script writing and TV broadcasting. Others underwent further training with the finest and multi-awarded broadcast journalists in the country. And I'd like to mention that psychosocial strategies and coping mechanisms were also integrated in trainings to support teachers' mental health and well-being. Child protection is also integrated in training programs conducted to ensure that children are safe while fully engaged in learning across modalities. Moreover, other activities include orientation of parents and of learners with disabilities on psychosocial support, training of teachers for the deaf on the Filipino Sign Language, and also for the blind. And immediately after my session, there's going to be a virtual orientation on the Writer's Guide for Enhancing Formative Assessment on Self-Learning Modules. Practically, all specialists in the Bureau are involved in the conformance review of our SLMs, and others are involved as module writers for the different training and coaches by the National Educators Academy of the Philippines. We have practically covered and even went beyond the consideration strategies in the implementation of the learning delivery modalities as contained in Annex A of the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan. It is our fervent hope that the implementation of these policy interventions and efforts of the department will reach even the farthest learner and teacher in the country. We don't grow when things are easy. We grow when we face challenges. It is perhaps our resilience and spirit of camaraderie in the department that brings us to see the opportunities that come out of these challenges. I would say that the challenges in implementation of the distance learning delivery modalities came in disguise with opportunities. Through these challenges, the department was able to reassess its strengths and weaknesses, particularly along the 4 pillars of our aggressive reforms in sulong edukalidad. The K-12 curriculum has been streamlined into the most essential learning competencies, and our learners are ensured of undisrupted curriculum implementation during crises and emergencies with the menu of learning delivery modalities. We have also institutionalized the implementation of the multiple learning delivery modalities, and a plethora of new teaching learning platforms have been employed, as well as online, offline learning resources have been provided. Self-learning modules, learning activity sheets, textbooks, ESLMs, video lessons, radio-based lessons, primer lessons, and other supplementary resources are made available. And the pandemic pushed us to recalibrate teacher training contents to align with new pedagogical demands. Certainly, the new normal demands the need to realign pre-service trainings and on-the-job training with the new expectations of the teaching profession, as well as we see the need to revisit the Philippine professional standards for teachers to respond to the different learning delivery modalities. And as we continue to collaborate and strengthen partnerships and linkages in the true spirit of bayanihan with our stakeholders. And truly, indeed, they're always there for us, supporting every program that we have in the Department of Education. With the pandemic we are facing, our mission is to overcome the education crisis, and we need to collaborate and reduce as much as possible the negative impact it has caused on learning and schooling. This is our mission, my dear fellow teachers and my dear fellow educators, and all is possible with the love for our school children in our hearts. No obstacle is insurmountable for our love for our learners. Let us be with them as they create their beautiful future and be part of it. Admittedly, COVID-19 is a life-changing event, but we can never allow it to kill the dreams of our learners. With that, I say thank you very much to all of you. Merry Christmas to all. And we pray for a more blessed 2020 for us all. Good day, everyone.
Thank you so much, Director Areola, for sharing that exemptional presentation. It perfectly captures the context, challenges, interventions, and even the ways forward on how we deliver effectively the teaching and learning processes in the new normal. And we hope that you will still join us again, Director Areola, in DepEd Teaches. As to our live audience, don't forget to share your insights and comments using the hashtag I support DepEd Teaches and hashtag DepEd Teaches Episode 2. You can also share your posts or even your selfies while you are watching the today's presentations.
Thank you, Sir July. Thank you, Director Leila P. Areola, for joining us here today in DepEd Teaches. That was a very comprehensive presentation. I hope that answers and clarifies the concerns of our teachers. You know, many policies and guidelines were emphasized. You can just do playback if you need to review the critical points. Before we end, we have some announcements to make. So first, for you to receive your certificate of appearance, you must have accomplished the registration form. And for you to receive the certificate of participation, you must complete and pass the evaluation form. So the links are found on the screen right now. So you can just copy or take a screenshot of the links. Again, you need to complete the registration and evaluation for you to receive certificates of appearance and participation. Now, dear participants, our teachers, due to the very high volume of participants who registered, it might take 10 to 15 working days before you receive your certificate. So just be patient and hopefully you will receive them in 2 weeks. Do not forget also to register for our next episode tomorrow, same time, 1:30 p.m., about overcoming challenges in assessment to be presented by Director Lito A. Palomar, OIC Director 3 of the Bureau of Learning Delivery.
Well, this is now the end of our live webinar. Thank you so much for tuning in. And on behalf of the curriculum and instruction strand, I hope it has been a productive afternoon to all of us.
Because in DepEd Teaches, our mission is empowering teachers, enabling learners. Thank you and good day to everyone.